Well, hello everyone. Eric, Mish, and Coach Sandra here
Hi.
today with another health and wellness topic, this time talking about the power of consistency. So, we talked a little bit about trust, why trust is so important in our last video. By the way, if you didn't catch that video, go back and
Yeah.
watch that episode because we dropped a lot of nuggets, a lot of truth, a lot of wisdom. And so trust is key in the transformation process, isn't it, Sandra?
It totally is. Trust is key. And when we can build that trust within ourselves is when we get to see the results that we want.
Absolutely.
Not always
Absolutely.
easy for everyone. So that's why we're here to talk about it. We're here to bring it to light, and hopefully those who are watching this will get some value from it. And we'd love to uh, see your comments and your take on it.
That's so true. Thank you so much for that. So, we're talking about consistency today. Why consistency is so important. Big, broad topic, but we're going to try to break it down in about 15 minutes for you today. So, let's start with a relatable truth. It's not what, it's not that you don't know what to do, it's that you're not doing it consistently. So, isn't it true, Sandra, that we've all been in this situation? I know I have.
Yes.
We've started a new program or some new initiative. We've started off really strong, and at some point we've just fallen off, right? We've failed to stay consistent. Or maybe we've experienced the I'll start Monday again cycle.
Yes,
I'll
we've all
start
heard
again
that
Monday.
one.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? Yeah, guilty as charged.
Yes. Years ago, I used to do that. It's always, let's start Monday. We'll get a fresh start on Monday.
I know. And sometimes it kind of makes ourselves feel good to say, I'll start Monday because it gives ourselves that out,
Yep,
right?
it
But
does.
we're going to break down a bit of this cycle that we can find ourselves in. We're going to explain why not only consistency feels hard sometimes, but how we can actually fix it, right? It's important.
Yeah.
So it's not just that it's not always that we're just lazy or we lack discipline, because real consistency doesn't just come from willpower. It comes from alignment and trust. So trust is a big part of consistency. If we don't trust the process, if we don't trust ourselves, we're most likely going to fail to be consistent, right?
Yeah.
So people oftentimes they try to force habits that don't fit their lifestyle, and this leads to them struggling. So a lot of times too, it's that they're just trying to do too much too fast.
Mm.
They're setting unrealistic, unsustainable expectations for them. So
Yeah.
what's your take on that, Sandra? You coach a lot of clients. Do you see that with your clients, and maybe even have you seen it with yourself at times?
Right. Yeah. Oh, I've been there before. The wait till Monday, first of the month, by the way, right? Today is the first of the month, and people want to get started on the first of the month thinking that, this is a fresh start. And I've been there as well. And so have some of my clients. And, the first thing is making that commitment, right? Like making a decision, I should say, making the decision as to what is it that you want to achieve, right? Whether that's, getting in the gym, your diet, whatever your particular goal is making the decision. And then how am I going to go about doing this? How committed am I to this outcome that I want? And, we're in a world where we have this immediate gratification all the time,
Yeah.
whether it's taking a quick pill to help you lose weight or whatever the case may be with what's going on now. A lot of these medications out there where people are losing weight very quickly. We want to see the results fast, right? And we have this big, grand plan as I'm going to do all these things. And then we may get started and we get burnt out pretty quickly because we come to
Mm.
realize either one, it's too much too soon, it doesn't really fit what my lifestyle is about, right? Do I really have the time to spend 2 hours in the gym every day right from the get-go? And we get to build it little at a time. And so I think people become overwhelmed and then they kind of they fall out or they get burnt out. And then they're like, oh, see, I haven't been able to do this program because of X, Y, and Z, but you didn't really give yourself the time to just slowly ease into it, right? Take these steps and be consistent with it because as we're consistent, we'll see results over time. And then that builds trust in knowing that I can make a decision, commit to it, stick to the program, and not jump from one thing to the other because we're not seeing the results that we want to see right away. And so
Yeah.
people get discouraged and they get discouraged and then they stop. And it's that start and stop, start and stop. And then guess what? There's no result because we're not consistent in one thing and just commit to it and allow yourself the time and the grace to see the results.
That's some really, really good points. What do you think some of the dangers are in falling too deeply in love with results over the process of what it takes to get to those results?
Yeah.
Why can that be dangerous and even sabotage our results in the end?
Yeah, or so for an example, stepping on the scale on a daily basis, thinking that you're going to see that scale move right away.
Yeah.
And so it's dangerous. That can be really dangerous because it's not always the scale that's going to show the progress, right? And even me personally, I have been on my health journey and, working out and I haven't necessarily lost a lot of weight, but I have built muscle and people were like, "Oh, you look like you've lost weight." And in actuality, I have not even been stepping on the scale because I was too at that time where I was getting on the scale pretty often. And then I was like, you start playing mind tricks with yourself because you're like, oh my God, the other day I had, sometimes some days we're a little more bloated, some days we're carrying a little bit more water, some days maybe we ate a little something, heavier than we usually do. So yes, the weight is going to fluctuate. But if we're consistently stepping on that scale and not seeing what we want, then it can be very dangerous. So
Yeah. It's easy to overanalyze
yeah.
what we're doing, and especially when we're in a process that doesn't yield immediate results,
Mhm.
like a weight loss journey, a health journey, a fitness journey. We're not going to work out once or twice or probably five times and see a change in our body. Like
Yeah.
we have to put forth that effort consistently over time before we see results. So if we're too focused on the end result, we could easily get discouraged when we're not getting there quickly enough and lose enjoyment of the process that will get us there.
And we forget that it took us a certain amount of time to get to where we're at, right? So let's say someone is on a weight loss journey, right? It took you how long to get to where you're at in this moment? It's going to take some time to reverse that, right? So if you've put on whatever 20, 30, 40 pounds, you can't expect that, it's going to come off that easily. It took times. Just like when you're detoxing the body and you're trying to recover from, maybe some chronic illnesses, there was a journey that got to where you were at. So there's going to be a journey to reverse that, right? And, we talk about this a lot, Eric, where if we just give the body half the chance to do what it gets to do, because we know our body's always wanting to heal. It's amazing what our bodies can do. Just a little cut that you get. And immediately the body starts to repair that little bit of, that cut or whatever it was that you got. And so, we have to be patient and allow ourselves that process and to trust in the process and enjoy the journey as much as possible because really that's where that's where the work is the journey, right?
I think you just nailed it. It's enjoying the journey towards our destination. So if we want to get somewhere fast, we're probably like, if we want to get across the country fast, we're not going to jump in a car and drive because that's going to take days on end,
Right, right.
if not a week or more. We're probably going to jump in a plane and just fly from one
Mhm.
city to the next, but we miss all of the in between, right? If we want to see
Yeah.
the sights, all of the sights from one city to the next, we'll decide to go on a road trip. And although it's going to take longer, but if we find the enjoyment in the road trip itself and all the things we're going to see along the way and the fun that we're going to have in the car and then it kind of makes the trip itself the destination in a
Yeah.
way.
And that's when we have to be present and in the moment each day. And we say this a lot, but it's a reminder like that we get to enjoy the present moment, right? And enjoy it each day versus, because it could be we want the result and we hear it all the time, like enjoy the journey. But it's about really being aware and taking that moment each day, like how can I enjoy what I'm doing right now, in this present moment, whatever. And then again, tying that to what your goal is, I get to enjoy today. I get to be present in this moment. And in this fast-paced world, that can be difficult. Like we were just talking today, is before we got on here, like all the multitasking and different things that I've been doing today. And then it's always a reminder for me too, like enjoy it, be grateful that I was able to do the things that I wanted to do, which was, go to the gym or finish a project I'm working on. And so we get to remind ourselves that it's okay, it's all right. We get to acknowledge that.
It's true. Sometimes it's just a shift in perspective that
Mhm.
changes everything, and that shifts our mind from I'm just doing this to get through it and relying on willpower and discipline to I'm actually enjoying this.
Right. Yeah. And willpower, we know, is only going to take you so far, right?
Exactly.
We need that little bit of willpower to get started, but that's not what's going to
Yeah.
keep us,
Keep us
keep us
going.
going, right? It's
That's
the
right.
commitment, it's the journey, it's making the decision and taking those consistent actions on a daily basis.
For sure. So, has there ever been a time when you've struggled with consistency? Uh, and if so, what
Yes.
changed when you found a simple structured approach?
Um, Probably, going plant-based, when I first went plant-based and figuring out like my food and like how I was going to eat and not really sure how I was going to do that. And looking to find ways to, eat new things, learn new recipes. And I wasn't sure, I was going to be able to do it, but it was very important to me. It was very tied into why that was important to me because I wanted to live a healthy lifestyle. I wanted to feel good and, not take medications anymore and not feel the way I was feeling. And, there were times where, yeah, I doubted, can I be making these meals and, keeping up with this? But again, I enjoyed learning and
Mm.
trying new recipes. And as I was doing that, I was feeling good, and I was, learning about all these amazing foods that I've never had before. And so that really helped keep me moving forward and feeling good and knowing that food can be delicious and, we don't have to feel like we're depriving ourselves, right? For anyone who's on a diet or they feel like you don't want to look at it as a restriction. You want to look at it as, wow, this is interesting. Let me learn. Let me go with a curious mind and see
Mm.
what's possible.
Mm. I just identified as you were sharing your story, one of the keys to success when we're embarking on any transformation journey, and that is to stay open and stay curious. Because if we go into the process with a closed mind and like it's going to fail, then it probably will. And
Yeah.
so you stayed curious, you stayed open, you stayed excited about the possibilities,
Hmm.
which is what led you to discover an entirely new and exciting lifestyle that you've
Yeah.
been able to maintain.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we can't go into it thinking that we've got it all figured out before we get there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to figure it out as you go along. And it's, brings it back to, the fear of not knowing. So it's like, just feel the fear and do it anyway, right? And just go for it.
Yeah.
and
So
learning.
I have a story to share. This is when I
Yes.
was working deeply into in the corporate world, my job, and I was trying to build another business, the current one that I work with today, a residual income business, and I was doing this as a side hustle. And I was feeling very overwhelmed initially because I was working a very demanding full-time corporate job and wondering how I would have the time to dedicate to building another income stream. And I started to feel overwhelmed and like I can't do this. That doubt was creeping in. And then my mentor told me something that simplified things for me exponentially. And he said, Eric, just focus on doing one thing that's going to build your business, that's going to get you closer to your goals. Just focus on one thing that you can do on a daily basis, but that you can do it consistently. You can do it on your worst possible day. You're having the most stressful day, the busiest day. You're not feeling your best, but you can do it anyway because it's easy. And when he told me that, I said, this makes a lot of sense. I'm overwhelming myself is what I'm doing. And you know
Right.
what happened is because I did the one thing, but I focused on doing it consistently every day, the one thing then easily became two or three things. And on a good day, maybe it became five or 10 things. But because I just simplified it and I
Yeah.
focused on the consistency, that those efforts paid dividends over the course of time. And just a few years later, my business it grew to the point where I was able to finally it became my exit strategy, my plan B, and I was able to leave that corporate job and do what I'm most passionate about, what I feel
Great.
most drawn to, and that is building, my current business. So it's just a testament to how simplifying and trusting the process leads to consistency over
I was
time.
just going to say that. Yeah, you were creating that evidence that you could do it if you just focused on that one thing. That's great, great advice. To just, and then you, like you said, you just those one turned into two or turned into three, and then you're like, yes, I got this.
And I apply the same method when it comes to fitness, when it comes to my health. I'm not up to a high intensity workout every single day. There's many
Right.
days where,
Very true.
I can just eke out, 20 or 30 push-ups, and that I call that my workout.
Yeah.
Other days when all I can do is get a stretch in, a good stretch. But doing something, even if
Something.
it's a small task, beats doing nothing because when we do nothing, it's easy for nothing to become our consistent effort.
Yeah. Yes. And I have worked on this all or nothing mentality that I had been working on throughout the year because I've been like, I'm all in or I'm all out.
Same
And I
here,
have been, yeah.
which can
And
sometimes that can work for us, and many
right,
oftentimes it could work against us.
right, yeah. And
Because if it's nothing, if it's like nothing, then it's like,
it's,
that's it, nothing. It's
I
nothing. It's
know.
not even something. It's nothing.
So yeah, I can relate to the story you were saying about, working out. It's like, oh, I got to get in a full workout, but you're right. You don't need to as long as you're there and you're committed. And again, it's keeping the promises to yourself that you are going to go and get something done rather than nothing. And so that's been a learning lesson for me too, is, it's okay. It's okay not to go 100 and, 10% every single day, but you're there. You're there. You're getting it done.
And sometimes we just set unrealistic expectations
Right.
for ourselves. We set that bar so high and it's just not attainable. It's not realistic. Probably higher than we would even set for others, but we do it to ourselves. And then
Right.
when we fail, we beat ourselves up and get discouraged. So we want to
Right.
help you break that cycle. So here's four ways to finally fix it, to finally build consistency. The first one is, and we mentioned it today, simplify everything. Just
Mm.
simplify the process. Less is more. Make it easy to win daily. And when we win, celebrate those wins. If we couldn't go on a 5 mile run, all we could do was walk for a mile, celebrate that, come home and, pat yourselves on the back and say, I did it. I got out there rather than sitting on the couch.
I think that's so important is taking the moment to celebrate the small wins. We don't
Yes,
tend to overlook it because we think of this, big win. And like you said, that's really important that we do that.
really great.
Recognize those small
Second thing is to lower the barrier to entry. So make habits doable even on our worst day. That was something huge for me. I know if I could do it on my worst day, I could certainly do that and better on my best day. And
Yeah.
not every day is a bad day, right? We have good days and we have bad days.
Exactly, exactly. And I think preparing for it too, preparing yourself to, complete that goal, whatever it takes. If you're going for a run, then make sure to get your shoes out, and
Yeah,
get your stuff
that's
that you're
good.
going to wear so that like you're preparing yourself, like you're already putting it in your mind, like I am committing to this by laying out the things that I need in order to do it.
Excellent. So the third thing is focus on identity, not outcome. So
Hmm.
instead of focusing on, you mentioned the scale as an example. I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. Okay, which is good. It's good to have a goal. But focus on building our identity. I'm someone who puts my health as a priority.
Hmm.
I'm someone who stays consistent in my habits. So
Hmm.
reinforcing that identity of who we want to become.
Hmm.
And this is where our own self-talk and the language we use
Is
when
so important.
speaking out loud or even to ourselves is so important.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep. Like coaching myself all the time, talking to myself and in a positive way, because the mind doesn't know, right? Right from right, just it automatically takes it for truth. And we're not always speaking the truth when we, are not speaking nicely to ourselves.
Very, very good. So another thing is committing to a timeline. So sometimes we commit to a very short timeline and it's not enough time to see the results that we're looking for. So instead of focusing on the next just 5 days, stretch that out. I'm going to commit to 30, 60, or 90 days before judging the results. Don't expect the results immediately because that will almost always lead to disappointment. Stretch that out. Be
Yeah, and
patient.
it's gonna lead people to jumping to different things all the time because like this didn't work, so now I got to go try this, and then they don't give it enough time, and oh, well, that didn't work. Let me try this. Yeah, it's being committed to seeing it all the way through.
So here's the big takeaway. Consistency isn't something you force, it's something you build.
Mm.
And when things are simple, aligned, and trusted, it leads to consistency and it just becomes natural. So if you are watching this video and you would like to be more consistent, if you would like to build more consistent habits,
The
whether
consistency
it
muscle.
comes to your health, strengthen that consistency muscle. Whether it comes to your health, it comes to if you're on a personal development journey, if you're an entrepreneur and building a business, if you're on a fitness journey, then reach out to Sandra or myself. We can
Yeah,
help you
love
to
to.
become more consistent. Any final thoughts, Sandra, before we close today?
Yeah, I mean, I love this conversation. I love, how we talked about trust and how we get to learn to trust ourselves through the consistency, through taking small actions and believing in yourself that you can do it and seeking the help or the mentorship when you feel like you need that support. And that's what we're here for as well, is to support you on your journey and help you succeed and know that you can do it one step at a time.
So great. Thank you so much for those final
Yeah.
thoughts. Comment consistency below if we can help you with that. And we certainly look forward to supporting you on your journey. Thanks
Absolutely.
again, Coach Sandra, for joining me
Thank
in this
you very
conversation.
much.
And thank you, everyone, for watching today.
Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.